I demanded a DNA test for my twins and found out that one of them is mine, while the other is my wife's best friend's husband's child, with whom she had been cheating. I demanded a divorce, and she claimed it was just an accident, promising it wouldn't happen again. However, later I caught them together once more. I had always considered myself a man of reason and patience. I was the kind of person who believed that relationships, especially a marriage, were built on trust, understanding, and communication. When I married Lisa, I was filled with optimism and the belief that we were partners for life. We had built a home together, started a family, and I thought we were living the dream that most people only hoped for. I didn't expect that dream to shatter so violently, so suddenly. It all started with the twins. When Lisa and I found out we were having twins, we were overjoyed. The news was a dream come true. I was going to be a father to not one, but two little miracles. The pregnancy was smooth, and when the day came for the birth, I was there by her side, holding her hand, supporting her through every contraction. The moment those babies were born, two perfect little girls, I thought my life had reached its peak. I loved them instantly. But there was something nagging at me, a feeling I couldn't shake. Lisa and I had been together for nearly 6 years at that point, and though I didn't want to admit it to myself, things had started to feel off. Our relationship, which had once been passionate and loving, seemed to be growing distant. She was always busy, always distracted. It wasn't like her, but I told myself I was being paranoid. I had too much on my plate at work, and perhaps I was projecting my stress onto our relationship. It didn't help that I had been working longer hours at the office, often coming home late and exhausted. Maybe it was all the pressure I was under that made me suspicious. Then the doubts started creeping in. I noticed that Lisa had become distant, less affectionate, and I didn't want to admit it, but there were subtle changes in her behavior. She started spending more time with her best friend, Rachel. Now, Rachel had always been a good friend, a person I had no reason to distrust. But the more time they spent together, the more uneasy I felt. There were whispers of something that I couldn't quite put my finger on, something I knew I wasn't imagining. One evening, after a particularly long day at work, I came home to find Lisa acting strangely. She was on edge, overly apologetic for what seemed like nothing. At that point, I couldn't let it slide anymore. I had to know what was going on, even if it meant confronting the truth. I did something I never thought I would do. I demanded a paternity test. I wasn't proud of it. I hated the thought that I might have to question the integrity of my wife. But something told me that I had to know for certain. Lisa was shocked. At first, she was angry, then confused, and finally she broke down crying. She promised me that I was being paranoid, that I was overreacting. But deep down, I had already made up my mind. She agreed reluctantly, likely because she knew I wouldn't back down. The results came back, and they hit me like a ton of bricks. One of the twins was mine. The other wasn't. The second baby, our beautiful, innocent daughter, was not mine. The results were irrefutable. I remember feeling like the world had collapsed around me. The confusion, the betrayal, the heartbreak, it was all too much to process in that moment. I sat in silence, staring at the paper in my hands, as Lisa stood there, her face pale, tears streaming down her cheeks. I'm sorry," she whispered. "I didn't mean for it to happen." But I wasn't listening. I couldn't hear her. All I could hear was the pounding of my heart in my ears. All I could feel was the overwhelming weight of the lie that had been built around me. I demanded an explanation. It didn't take long for her to admit the truth. She had been having an affair with Rachel's husband, Brad. It had started as a one-time thing, she insisted, just a mistake. But one mistake led to another, and another, until it became a secret she couldn't keep hidden any longer. The guilt had been eating her up inside, but it didn't stop her. The betrayal ran deeper than I could ever have imagined. She promised it was over. that it had been a mistake, that she loved me and that it wouldn't happen again. She begged for forgiveness, asking for another chance to rebuild what we had. She assured me that the affair had ended, that she wanted to make things right. I didn't know what to say. My heart wanted to believe her. I wanted to hold on to the woman I had married, the woman I had loved. But my mind, my shattered trust, couldn't let me forget what she had done. The reality of it all was too much to bear. It felt like I was drowning in a sea of lies and deception. But I loved her. I loved my children. I loved the life we had built together, and I wasn't ready to throw it all away just yet. So, after days of agonizing over it, I decided to try and forgive her. I thought that perhaps, with time, we could rebuild our marriage. We would go to therapy, we would work through the pain, and maybe, just maybe, we could put this behind us. I was wrong. A few months later, I caught them again. I wasn't looking for it. I wasn't snooping or being paranoid, I was just living my life, trying to rebuild the pieces of my broken heart. But one evening, while I was out running errands, I decided to check my phone. Lisa had left a message for me, saying she would be out with Rachel for the evening. It wasn't unusual. They had been spending a lot of time together lately, and I had accepted that they were close friends. But something in my gut told me to follow my instincts. I called Rachel's phone to ask if Lisa was with her. Rachel didn't answer. It wasn't like Rachel to ignore my calls. So I tried again. Still no answer. By now, my heart was racing, and I knew I had to see for myself. I drove to Rachel's house. The driveway was empty, but the lights were on inside. I knocked on the door, but no one answered. I started to panic. I drove back to our house. The garage door was open, and I could see the car parked in the driveway. My hands were shaking as I walked up to the front door. And then I heard something, laughter, coming from inside. It was Lisa's laugh. The one I had always loved, the one that had once made me feel like the luckiest man alive. I stood frozen for a moment, my breath caught in my throat. Then, without thinking, I pushed open the door. What I saw will be forever burned into my memory. Lisa and Brad, Rachel's husband, were sitting on the couch, laughing together. They didn't notice me at first, but when they did, the look on their faces was one of pure panic. They scrambled to stand up, but it was too late. "Brad, what the hell?" I managed to spit out, my voice trembling with anger and hurt. "Are you serious? After everything, you're still doing this?" Lisa was crying again, begging me to understand, telling me it was a mistake, that it didn't mean anything, that she had never stopped loving me. But I couldn't listen to her. Not anymore. The trust was gone. The love I once felt for her was overshadowed by the image of her in the arms of another man, over and over again. I told her it was over. I told her I was done. I didn't want to hear any more excuses, didn't want to listen to any more apologies. My heart had been shattered too many times. I had given her a second chance, a third chance, and she had thrown it all away. I couldn't live with that. The days that followed were a blur of legal papers, angry phone calls, and hours spent crying in silence. I filed for divorce almost immediately. I felt like I was losing everything I had worked for, the life I had built, the family I had dreamed of. But at the same time, I knew I couldn't continue in a relationship built on lies. I couldn't raise my children in an environment of deceit and betrayal. The court proceedings were difficult. Lisa fought tooth and nail to retain custody of the twins. I wanted to be the best father I could be for my daughters, to shield them from the ugly reality of what was happening. But I wasn't sure how to protect them from the damage that had already been done. My daughters, who had once been a symbol of joy and hope, were now the only thing keeping me going. I couldn't bear the thought of them growing up without both of their parents, but I knew I couldn't stay in a marriage that had lost all meaning. As the days dragged on, I realized that no matter how hard I tried, I couldn't escape the emotional wreckage of Lisa's betrayal. Eventually, I won full custody of the twins. It was a bittersweet victory. I was now the sole parent raising our children, but at least I had control over their future. I couldn't protect them from every hurt, but I could shield them from the toxic environment their mother had created. Even though I eventually moved on, found peace in a new chapter of my life, I never stopped feeling the weight of that betrayal. It's funny how trust is something so fragile, something that once broken, can never truly be repaired. I thought I had learned the value of love and loyalty, but I was wrong. I had learned something far more painful, that people can change, and not always for the better. Relationships aren't just about love, they are about trust, respect, and the understanding that we are all human, capable of making mistakes. But once trust is broken, it can never be fully mended. Now, I focus on my daughters, on building a future for them, and ensuring that they grow up with the love and stability that I so desperately wanted them to have. I may never fully recover from the betrayal, but for them, I will keep moving forward. The past may never completely fade, but I will make sure the future is brighter for my girls. That is all that matters now. To anyone listening to this story, I would offer these pieces of advice. 1. Trust is the foundation of any relationship. Trust is fragile, and once broken, it's incredibly difficult to rebuild. It's important to communicate openly, address concerns when they arise, and never ignore the little signs that something might be wrong. Pay attention to your intuition, and don't let doubts go unaddressed. Trust, once shattered, may never be restored in the same way. 2. Don't ignore red flags. If something feels off, it's worth investigating, even if it's uncomfortable. Sometimes we convince ourselves that everything will be fine or that we're overthinking things. But if you notice patterns of behavior that are troubling or if there are changes in how your partner acts, don't dismiss them. Pay attention to those gut feelings, they're often trying to tell you something. 3. Forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting. While forgiveness is powerful and necessary for healing, it doesn't mean you forget the pain caused or that everything will automatically go back to normal. It's a long road, and trust often takes years to rebuild, if it's even possible. Sometimes, despite our best efforts, we can't move forward with someone who has broken our trust beyond repair. 4. Set boundaries for your emotional well-being. If you find yourself in a relationship where trust has been severely damaged, take a step back and consider what's best for you. Sometimes, walking away is the only healthy option. It's okay to set boundaries, even if it means ending a relationship, especially if you can't find peace or trust again. You deserve emotional security and respect. 5. Value yourself enough to walk away from toxicity. It can be hard to leave a relationship, especially when there's love involved or when you've invested years of your life. But there are situations where staying isn't worth the emotional toll. No one deserves to be lied to or betrayed repeatedly. You deserve a partner who respects you, values you, and who shows their love through actions, not just words. 6. Protect your children from the fallout. If you're in a situation where betrayal or deceit affects your family, especially your children, your priority should be protecting their well-being. Children can sense when things are wrong. If a relationship isn't healthy, it's important to make decisions that offer them stability, even if that means making difficult choices. They need love, security, and consistency in their lives, and it's up to you to provide that for them. 7. Seek support and healing. Going through something like this can leave emotional scars that last for years. Don't be afraid to seek help from friends, family, or a professional counselor. Healing isn't linear, and it takes time. Therapy or support groups can provide insight, a safe space for your feelings, and practical advice on navigating through heartbreak. Don't isolate yourself. Healing happens faster when you allow yourself to lean on others. Learn and grow from your experiences. Though betrayal is one of the most painful experiences anyone can go through, it can also be a chance for growth. You learn more about yourself, your strengths, your limits, and what you truly need from a relationship. With time, you can rebuild your self-esteem, rediscover your passions, and grow stronger from the pain. 9. Be cautious with second chances. Sometimes, people truly make mistakes and deserve a second chance, but that doesn't mean you should forget the consequences of those mistakes. A second chance should be given with clear boundaries and with the understanding that both partners are committed to doing the hard work of rebuilding trust. However, if trust is repeatedly broken, it's okay to walk away. You don't owe anyone endless opportunities to hurt you. 10. You are worthy of love and respect. Above all, remember that no one has the right to betray or mistreat you. You are worthy of a partner who respects you, honors your commitment, and values your emotional well-being. Don't let anyone convince you otherwise. Life moves on. Time heals, and though the scars may remain, they don't define you. What defines you is your strength, your resilience, and your ability to pick yourself up and continue forward, even after experiencing the deepest of betrayals.